Good Wednesday evening, high school sports fans. Joe Gillaway with Lingelstown Gazette Sports live from Orchard Street Studio number 2. We're at the upstairs studio tonight, and this is our Gazette Sports Chat high school football postseason preview. I'll be joined tonight by our weekly high school football recap show's panel of experts, along with a special guest analyst and a current local high school football coach, both of whom are uniquely qualified to help us break down Pennsylvania postseason high school football. I'll bring in all of these friends in just a moment, as soon as we're done thanking those responsible for bringing you tonight's show, our Lingelstown Gazette Sports Platinum sponsors. And they are Rickabaug's Electric, Payer Apparel, Ted's Bar and Grill, Hoffman Ford, Freedom Financial Wealth Management, Ted's Bar and Grill. I already said them. They're that good. We got to say them twice, Coach. The Tire Mart, American Legion Post 272, Modern Imprint, Team PA AAU Basketball, Crystal Bob at Howard Hanna Real Estate, Underdog Sports Bar and Grill, Capital Region Insurance Agency, Sam Hartley Decking, and Tonino's Pizza. Thank you to these great local businesses for their continued support of Lingelstown Gazette Sports and our area's student athletes. Upcoming on Gazette Sports Chat, we have 3 of the premier girls soccer players in the area. We're going to get to know a little bit more about these young ladies. Ashley Economopoulos from Lower Dolphin, Lauren Lebo, she's a goalkeeper from Mechanicsburg. That team's having a really good season so far. And then Cami Ofak from Central Dolphin. So we're looking forward to bringing those young ladies in probably someday next week when they're not playing soccer. We have also our Week 11, our regular Sunday recap show will be this coming Sunday. We're going to move it back 1 hour. We usually do it at 7 o'clock this Sunday, my grandson's birthday party. So I have to make both. And then also, I don't want to get into this too much, but we will be doing this come basketball season. Same deal, weekly high school basketball recap show. We're going to have some real interesting panel of experts for that, and we're excited. So whatever you're seeing us doing now with football, we will be doing with basketball as well. So right now we have Terry Clark Jr. with us, along with Dave Burman. And Coach, this is Coach Fort Chapman here to my left. Would it be their left too? I don't know. To them, they're right. I don't know.
They're right.
Okay. Anyway, I think it's backwards. Coach Fort Chapman is a friend of mine. He coached with our opening guest here, and I'm excited to have you with us tonight, Coach. And how about tonight's opening guest? He was a 4-year starting quarterback at Bloomsburg University from 1993 through 1996, and a 2014 inductee into the school's Sports Hall of Fame. After a 5-year stint coaching college football, he started his high school coaching career as an assistant under legendary head coach George Chomp at Central Dolphin, where he was named head coach before the 2006 season. Over the past 19 years, his Rams have won 9 Mid-Penn Commonwealth Division titles, 2 District 3 championships, along with the coveted PIAA Big School State Championship. He was recognized as the 2011 Pennsylvania Big School Coach of the Year and voted Mid-Penn Coach of the Decade for his team's 2010 through 2019 accomplishments. It's a pleasure for us to be joined tonight by Central Dolphin High School head coach Glenn McNamee. Hi, Coach.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Did I cover it all?
The check's in the mail. Appreciate it very much.
Cool.
Joe, did you talk about Phillipsburg, New Jersey High School?
He got sacked. I know that.
Well,
Dave Burman.
they have a big Thanksgiving Day game every year against a local team across the river on the Pennsylvania side.
Easton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good job,
Terry.
Coach Snap. Thanks for remembering.
Terry, 15 minutes before Coach Matt comes in, Burman sends me a text. It's a picture of Coach Matt getting sacked in high school.
Sadly, there's one of those pictures out there.
Anyway,
So his record
let's get started. Let's talk about this year's team. I just talked about a lot of the stuff that you accomplished over the last 19 years, and this year's team was not a team not without heart. We know that. I talked to you a handful of times throughout the season. They competed at a really high level. My opinion, and I don't want people to take this the wrong way, probably just not as talented as maybe some of your other teams, some of the other teams that you were going up against. Finished 3-7, but I think it's important to mention that you lost those 7 games by an average of 9 points per game, which included games against 3 of the best teams in the state of Pennsylvania, State College, McDevitt, and Harrisburg. You lost to East by a point, Cumberland Valley by 3, and Petercliff in overtime. Coach, we talked about your team every week, and we talked about they're not giving up, another close game. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to remember about this 2024 Central Dauphin Rams football team.
Well, as you point out, there's no question it was a very young team, the youngest team we've ever had, the fewest number of seniors, and the fewest number of seniors who were playing there on Friday nights. And as the year went on, they got better, which is always one of our biggest goals. And it's easier said than done because there's always obstacles along the way. But they did. They got better, and that culminated with a real nice win at Chambersburg last Friday night. As you mentioned, we had some close losses. And a lot of good things happened, especially as you pointed out, the manner in which they played. But we have very high expectations at Central Dauphin, as we should. And what we're going to have to learn in this coming off season is how to win those close games. We did win a close one at Chambersburg, and hopefully that would be a good springboard into 2025.
Okay, Terry, Dave, we're gonna team up on this, Coach.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
I'll cut in. So I'm glad you brought up the Chambersburg win. Just gotta say, great job, way to close your season on a high note. But I have to be honest. In our Facebook group on the Pennsylvania Football Forum, I did these mock brackets for the District 3 playoffs, 6A, 5A, and 4A. 6A, I had Chambersburg in on my bracket. The reason being is because, Chambersburg was coming off a big win over Cumberland Valley. So I assumed or thought, they would carry that momentum, because they needed the win to get in. They needed to beat your team. But I did note on that prediction that, Coach Mack would have his guys ready. CD, I'm pretty sure would love to be spoiler, beat them, they won't get in kind of thing. But I guess my question for you is, what was your message heading into that final game, with you guys kind of being out of playoff contention? What did you say to your guys?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question. It was a big game for us. As you pointed out, there was an opportunity for us to be that spoiler, and that could be a motivating factor in sports. But like I said, we have a really unique situation with such a low number of seniors playing. We talked a lot about that being a springboard game into 2025, having most of our team back. And we talked about how the seniors can play a huge role in that. And we talk legacy all the time and how that could be a game that helps the seniors establish something for themselves as the program moves forward. And I think the kids took that message to heart, and it showed on the field, especially being down 14-0 and then having a really good goal line stand in the third quarter. Our kids really did have a strong desire to win that football game, which was great to see.
Right. And I just have to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, like being down 14-0 and still, getting your guys to fight back. Not too many coaches in that situation would be able to do that. So hats off to you. Everyone should know you're one of the better coaches in the state. Despite you guys being 3-7, you guys fought hard. Like you mentioned, you were a younger team this year. But you guys finished on a strong note, and I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do next year.
Yeah, we're certainly looking forward to getting this offseason started to make it a much more successful 2025 in terms of wins and losses.
Right. Another question I got for you. So springing into next year, when do you typically like to begin your offseason, workouts, trainings? When do you start?
The offseason has always been the key to our success throughout the years. We have a really comprehensive offseason program, and that's a big part of our development. We take great pride in the development of our players, as people, and as students. So it really is a year-round effort. It's kind of a source of pride for us that we begin our offseason workouts as soon as the season ends. So we just had our JV game on Monday. We're in the process of returning equipment, and there's going to be guys in the weight room tomorrow. Usually we get started right away, and This year's no exception. And I'm impressed with our kids each year, how it's become just part of the culture, and they want to get in there and get that off season going.
Right.
Dave,
Yeah.
Anybody? Go ahead, Terry. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Dave. I'll cut back in later.
Oh, me? Oh, well, just Coach, it's great to see you. Covered a lot of games when I was in Mifflin County, and we used to play Central Dauphin.
and then did your Coatesville game. Been PA guy at Coatesville last few years, and it was a game close loss a couple of years ago. We are in the presence of Pennsylvania high school football royalty on this show, guys. It's hard to win a PIAA state championship in any sport. We have a state champ for Chapman, McDevitt, 95, and of course, Coach McNamee, 2011. That's special. I'm glad to be part of this.
Yeah, and I wanted to mention something too about. I was at a soccer game last week, and it was the week leading up to the Chambersburg game, and I was standing right on top of your field, your practice field, Coach, and the energy on that practice field, and I was standing with somebody, I don't know, maybe my friend Neil Rinaldi or somebody up there. I go, this is a 2-7 team, really not playing for much more than pride. And they wanted to win a big game, knock off be spoiler, but it looked and sounded as if you guys were going into like a championship game. That was the energy that remained in this group of young men at that point in the season. And I just wanted to, whatever you did and your assistant coaches did to keep those guys energized and excited, my hat's off to you.
Yeah, we take great pride in the way we practice. Coach Chapman, it was a blast coaching with him for 6 years at Central Dauphin, and he was a part of a lot of those energized practices. He was the guy who helped make some of those practices energized, as you guys can imagine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the records are. It doesn't matter what the situation is. That's how we like to go about our business. But a lot of credit to our kids for actually conducting themselves that way.
We never said a bad word about your team. We this is our 11th show, Coach, and every time we brought up Central Dauphin, the consensus was that they're still fighting. Another close game. They got to win. Big game coming up. They're going to take it seriously no matter what. That was kind of what we kept echoing all season long. So we knew that that you guys were going to do your best, and that greener pastures are awaiting you. That's for sure.
Yeah,
anything, Coach Chapman, you want to ask Coach?
Well, I can say something negative about the Central Dauphin football program.
Okay.
When I was involved at CD, Coach Mack was kind enough to hire me. I got hired as a teacher right before the season started, and was thrilled that had met him and spent some time with him the week of Big 33, because I helped with Big 33, and he was an assistant coach a couple years prior, and he was kind enough to allow me to be on his staff, and starting in 2011. And my only concern for helping him and working with him was these daggone bright green Kelly green uniforms. I'm a uniform nut, and I was not.
We're going to talk about uniforms.
I was not happy about this Kelly green. I'm trying to get myself to understand I got to be a part of that, and I got to totally adopt that Kelly green. And a week later, these kids are getting uniforms for the first game, and we're playing Manheim Township at home. And I'm looking around, and I see this dark green shade of uniforms, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And they said, "We got brand new uniforms." Yeah, dark green. And there was nobody more excited. These kids were jacked up too, but I was like, "Wow!"
Yeah, man.
And so we had these dark green unis, and they still have them.
Yeah.
Obviously a different uniform than they were then, but same shape. And after a couple of years, I said, "Coach Mack, we have some sharp uniforms." He goes, "Yeah, we do." I said, "Why are we not all wearing the same color socks and cleats?" And he said, "That's a lot to take care of." And Coach Mack he doesn't let a stone unturned, every little detail. And I joked about him. I said, "A lot of guys might think that your name's Five Chapman, because he's a lot like my dad and taking care of the little details." And I was so impressed with that. Anyway, he said, I got so much going on. And he goes, "I can't be concerned about these players' socks and cleats." I said, "Well, I can."
Right.
He said, "Go to it." So we got Under Armour uniforms. We said, we're going to get Under Armour black socks and dark green socks, and we're going to mix and match as we go. And Coach Mack said, "Coach Chap, you're in charge of that." And we had the game socks to go with it. We all wore black Nike cleats. Coach Mack and I were into the black look, and it matched for a long time there. And I really was thankful he allowed me to be a part of that uniform situation.
And then 15 weeks later, what happens?
Well, that wasn't the first year. We didn't have them.
2011, I thought you said.
First year I coached with them, yes.
Oh, okay.
But,
yes.
but And the funniest thing, I don't want to overtake, but
No,
real
that's
quickly,
okay.
I'll be darned. Coach Mack said, you can handle that, Coach Shep, as I did. And as you know, the old problem, you're going to have a handful of kids, Ben Dupree, a handful of them that aren't going to bring their socks to the game. We had those. So we instituted, when you get a pair of
That's
socks,
not me, though.
and he's going to wash them and bring them back for the kids. Yeah, they didn't get to take their socks home once they lost the pair.
That's great. Before I turn it over to whoever wants to ask the next question, I want to mention that, Dave, you mentioned about Coach Chapman. He had a state championship as a head coach at Bishop McDevitt in 1995. One of only 3 Dauphin County state championships, along with Coach McNamee's 2011 team and 5 Steel High state champion teams. But he was also an assistant coach on the 2011 Central Dauphin team and a starting quarterback on the 1982 state tri-champs. There was 3 of them, along with Steel High and Steel Valley. That back then it was mythical, Dr. Roger Saylor, but that was a state championship. Dave, you're old enough to remember. I'm old enough to remember. If Dr. Roger Saylor deemed you a state champ, you were a state champ. So he's done it with the trifecta as a player, as an assistant coach, and as a head coach. I haven't found anybody else who has done that. So I'll
tell you what, I was just thrilled that Coach Mack accepted me on a staff that was already put together. I had a very small role and just did the best I could wherever was needed. And we had another good coach, George Landis, who was a legendary coach at the college level at Bloomsburg and Bucknell. And we had a staff that worked incredibly hard. And Coach McNamee just set the stage and the tone for the whole season. And I just, those last 3 games, it was just so memorable being a small part of that, seeing a team go up against a very good Wilson team in the district final, Coach Mack, and pulling that win out. We were winning from start to finish. And then going to North Allegheny, a team that was the defending state champ. We didn't know at the time they were going to win the state title the next year. So they would have been most likely 3 times in a row state champ. And Coach Mack had that team, that 2011 CD team, just ready and going to Altoona to pull off a victory that was a victory that one of my most cherished as a part of that program. And our kids went in and believed that they could beat a North Allegheny team that was phenomenal. And they did just that. And 23-20 on a last-second field goal. And the thing that we did in that game, we set the tone and took the lead. How about it, Coach Mack?
Yep, that's right.
And tell them about that game, Coach, a little bit, because that was something.
Yeah, that's what we're here to talk about, postseason.
First off, it was a pretty cold night. How about it, Coach Chap?
High of 22 degrees, and that was during the day.
Yeah, it was freezing cold.
That's crazy.
And they had the swagger. They were one of the top teams in the nation, I believe. They had a national ranking.
Top 10, number 8 or something like that.
Yeah, returning state champs. They had a real swagger to them, as they deserved. And our goal, our message all week was they don't have a lot of close games. They're certainly not expecting a close game against us. Let's get these guys into the 12th round, 15th round, whatever the analogy. And if we can get them there, let's see how they handle it. Let's see if we can give ourselves a chance. Sure enough, we got it to the very end, and we're able to win it in the very end. With
a nice put together drive in the last couple minutes after they tied it up and got a field goal from inside the 5 to win the game on the last play of the game.
Unbelievable.
Yep. And it was true, Coach Chap. They didn't seem to handle it real well when we were sticking around.
The other team, North Allegheny.
They got some penalties. I think some frustration penalties. Wouldn't you agree, Coach?
Oh.
Absolutely. And now they weren't the first to set off the penalty barrage, though. Coach Mack, what happened, Coach, early in that game? What did they do specifically? They hit our guy late or something?
Drew Scales, who's now Coach Scales. Yeah, I felt like it was a late hit and a 15-yarder that they didn't call.
But they did call a 15-yarder a few moments later because Coach Mack went out and really set the tone by basically saying, we're not tolerating this, and we're not going to allow this to happen throughout the game. And Coach Mack got a 15-yard penalty for his boisterousness, but it was well-deserved, but it was a tone setter for our team. And I thought it was one of those 15-yard penalties that set the tone and the stage for the rest of the football game.
And it was important. It was important to our players to really establish the idea that we weren't going to back down and we weren't going to be intimidated. And they really did establish that throughout the night.
Art Walker was coaching. He was at North Allegheny that year.
Correct.
He was a fire guy. I saw them the next year, 2012.
They beat Coatesville.
Yeah, and they beat Harrisburg and Robert Martin III that year. They were unbelievable, great team. And then they played Wilson in the District 3 championship and got beat pretty good. I remember I was there for that one. And then me and my wife went out and saw Wilson Westlawn get hammered by North Allegheny, Garrity. You played against Greg Garrity's son. And then, they beat Coatesville in a wild game. So Art Walker, unbelievable.
Yeah.
I want to bring in, recognize Ben Dupree joined us here. Ben, how are you?
I'm doing good. Question real quick, Coach Mack. That state championship team, I actually had graduated the year before. My question for you is, because I know a lot of those guys, do you think that was actually your best team that you coached, that team?
Well, we've been fortunate here. We've had a lot of good kids and a lot of good teams come through. The fact that they made it all the way to that point, it's hard to say that they weren't. And they really were a tremendous team. As the year went on, they got closer and closer together. The level of belief increased, and it culminated at Hershey Park Stadium against North Penn. So, yeah, I mean, you certainly can't take anything away from them. And a lot of great individual kids on that team. Some of them coach with us now, which is so great to have them on staff. And certainly a lot of memories that we won't ever forget.
And 2 senior Big 33 players, and Evan Schwann, who was a D end at Penn State, and Zach Wilk, who played offensive line at Cornell. And they were both Big 33. Then JD saw the next year. And if it were East-West in the Big 33, not playing another state, you get a whole nother 33, 34 players involved. Yeah. I think most likely Drew Scales would have made a team like that.
He would have been deserving. There's no question about it, because he was certainly one of the stars.
Let's see. We lost. Dave, are you there? I don't know.
Hey, Coach Chapman, I still remember all those videos you used to show us to the state title run of your state title run as a coach and your state title run as a player. I remember all of them.
Okay. Coach Mack, you want to stick around with us?
I can stick around for a minute or two.
I want to see how the magic happens here on a weekly basis. No, I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not. I am so blessed to have a group of guys like this with me every week, and
what a great group! I'm honored to be here. This is outstanding.
So let's try to not spend too much time on this, but we haven't really addressed this. Let's congratulate. We kind of did, but all of the Mid-Penn conference or division Mid-Penn conference winners, starting with the Commonwealth. Harrisburg and State College shared here comes Dave. Shared the division title by virtue of 8-1 records. Yes, Harrisburg beat State College, but the way that the Mid-Penn Conference handles ties are that they are ties.
Which it should.
Yeah, they don't go to head-to-head. Which is fine with me too.
And Harrisburg got upset a few weeks ago by Cumberland Valley, which made the tie prop. And then it was the State College McDevitt winner at State College. Whoever won that game at the end of the year, regular season, would have been a tie with Harrisburg. And State College. Did that game go into quadruple overtime? No, it was a regular. I'm joking. It was
the score.
The score.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. No, but we did watch a quadruple overtime game about a month ago. LaSalle and St. Joe's Prep. So let's move on to the Keystone. Mechanicsburg finishes 10-0 overall, 9-0 in the Keystone division. Hats off to them.
And Dave Heckert, what a job he's done establishing a culture there.
First year in, yeah. Trinity in the Colonial wins it outright. And then in the Capital, another scenario where there is a tie, Juniata and Steel High. Juniata did beat Steel High during the regular season, but again, they will share the title. And let's go down and there's nothing official here, but let's talk about who we liked as the coaches of the year and just throw some players' names out that we like. I like Matt Linthal as the Commonwealth Coach of the Year, and I'll tell you why. And Cal, I think the world of. I think he's a great coach and he's had a lot of success. Linthal came in, he lost one of his best players who transferred out. And not very long, it was close to the season starting, close enough that he really had to kind of switch gears and figure things out. And but if I had to choose one out of the two, for me, it would be Linthal. How about you guys? What do you think?
I agree.
I think I would say Coach Kyle, just because of he had to figure out his quarterback situation in a week, and the quarterback played well throughout the year. And
Okay, that's fair. That's fair enough.
It overcame the Kevin Brown injury. But I can't take away from what State College did, what Coach Linthal did.
That's right, Ben.
It's tough. Yeah,
Losing Brown was a big
right
loss for the Cougars.
Yeah,
throughout the majority of that season.
Yep.
Okay, how about let's move on to the keystone. I think is very obviously Dave Heckert.
Of course.
I mean, Shippensburg had a great season, but Mechanicsburg handed it to him. Anybody want to disagree with Heckert and Mechanicsburg?
No.
Trinity, I love Kevin Yarnovich. Love it. I mean, he came in. Did they get rid of that interim tag? Does anybody know? He was hired as the interim head coach, which I get, but when you got to go through a season like that and you just keep winning and winning and winning. So,
I'm about for Joe Heaton, but I definitely for Kevin Yarnovich to come in and yeah, that's well deserved.
Okay. Again, it's hard to argue against Joe Heaton too. So
no, Kevin Yarnovich, he definitely.
There's nothing
he overachieved. He definitely overachieved.
He overachieved, so I would definitely give it to him.
Correct. And then
I'm with you, Ben. Nice shout out to Joe Heaton. Is definitely deserved.
Yeah. Joe's a friend of mine. So I'm friends with, I think, Cal Everett and Joe Heaton, and I kind of voted against both of them so far. And I'm going to do that again. Coach Andrew Irby's I consider a friend, and I'm going to take Juniata head coach Kurt Kondo only because he beat Steel High head-to-head. Brand new in the Capital Division, came from the Liberty, which is defunct now. And I would say that the Capital is probably a little bit more challenging than the Liberty was. So probably more so by virtue of having to play Steel High and Camp Hill. So very nice season by Coach Kondo there. Does anybody else want to chime in on that?
I like Coach Herb for this one, just based off of what his team lost. And they were a younger team. I think record-wise, what are they? 8-2, 7-3. One of the
8-2 overall, 7-1 in the Capital Division.
I guarantee not many people had them finishing 8-2 in the regular season.
And that's I couldn't argue against that either. I'm not just trying to agree with everybody, but you guys all made great points about different coaches than I chose. So. It would have been easy for me to just go with the local guys, and keep the peace. But a lot of coaches did a lot.
Irby has enough hardware. He's good.
All right. All right. And how about some players here? I really like in the Commonwealth a few players. You need something right? I really like what Messiah Mickens and Elias Koch were able to do because they both play on both sides of the ball at high levels. Mickens, to me, kind of took him a few weeks to find his groove, new school. Things change, your atmosphere, environment changes. And he didn't play poorly out of the gate, but I thought he got better and better and better as the season went on. I also like, and three players for State College, Michael Gall, Ty Salazer, and Eddie Corkery. Coach Mack, you know all three of those guys, right?
Yeah, tremendous players, and
wow.
Not just this season, but their careers. Very productive over their careers.
Yeah, all three of them. I mean, this is nothing official. That's why I'm just kind of throwing some names out.
I thought Harrisburg's quarterback almost grew up before our eyes. We did the game against State College, but the game against Bishop McDevitt, phenomenal rivalry that was, put back together here, and to see Harrisburg just up against the wall and behind by 2 scores early in the second half, and for him and that team to bounce back and for him to hit completions and get Harrisburg back in the game and a chance to win that game, and then having to do what they had to do at the end of regulation to even get to overtime, right. And then what he did in overtime on top of that. All of that was very impressive.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was watching, actually.
Yeah. And take nothing away from McDevitt because they played a heck of a football game,
right.
too. And it was just a battle back and forth.
And I forgot, I have Stone Saunders down here too. I mean, I know that's a lot of players. Mickens, Cope, Gull, Salazer, Corkery, and Saunders, but they're all studs. They're all great players and had really good seasons. Anybody else want to chime in there? Did I cover them all? That's a lot of good players there.
Yeah, I think
it's great after going all the way back to 1967 when Jimmy Jones had 35 touchdown passes in a season, which was a state record for 30 years until Chad Kroll from Clearfield beat it in 97. Obviously, teams throw a ton more now, and those records are long gone at many levels of all different types of football. But then to see Irby break the state record of career touchdown passes, and then less than a season later, Stone Saunders beats it, and that says a lot for our area and in the greater Harrisburg area. And I think those are two wonderful accomplishments for two 4-year starters.
Yep. How about Josh
I'm a big believer in all records. All records are meant to be broken, but I don't think Wilt Chambers' 100 points in the game is going to get broken. Just want to throw that in there.
Just ask Coach Mack. He left college with the records, and they're probably all going by now.
Speaking of Ben Dupree saying that, this is just off the top of my head here. Last basketball season, I was fortunate enough to announce last week the Mechanicsburg-Shippensburg game to see this Smith from Mechanicsburg, how athletic he is, defense, offense, catching the ball, running the ball on jet sweeps. But he also broke an unofficial record, the Giant Center District Championship length of a shot to be made, because right? I think Ben Dupree had that against Steel High. A couple steps across that court, the beater to beat Steel High in the district final way back in 2008. And then this past a season ago, this Smith made a beyond half court shot at the end of the first half for a Mechanicsburg district title team. But hey, Ben Dupree,
what's up?
You put that ball up. Did you think it had a chance to go in right away when it left your hands?
When it left my head, I knew it was going in. It was just a matter did I get it off or not. But I knew once I got the ball and if I got it off, it was going in. It was too much determination.
That's great.
We just talked about this last week. He broke my heart. I'm a Steel High fan, right?
Yeah.
I went down there to watch Steel High win. Right?
No doubt about it.
I had to walk to my car going, what just happened? That was unbelievable.
I was a Steel High fan as a kid and a long time for my mom teaching there for Steel High basketball with Marty Bankovic. But I was teaching it at Susquehanna at the time and had been coached. So my allegiance went to Susquehanna, and Ben Dupree drilled that shot. And
unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable competitor he is on football and basketball.
Moving on to the Colonial, I got Torrin Evans from Susquehanna Township, Christian Joy from Trinity. Anybody else want to? Of course, Lex Cyrus, but I kind of think that Torrin Evans was the straw that stirred the drink there at Susquehanna, which the quarterback often is, usually is. Am I leaving anybody out there in that division?
1, 2, 3, yeah.
Nothing official here once again. And then I'm going to go with in the Capital Division. Did I just call that the Capital? That was the Colonial. I'm going to go with Noah Doy from Camp Hill, just because he had so many more tackles. I want to throw a defensive player in here. He had like a couple dozen, 25 or 30 more tackles than the second highest amount of tackles in the entire conference. So, and not just because he was on our show 2 weeks ago. Awesome young man, Noah Doy, three-sport athlete, but just had a great season defensively there for Camp Hill. Anybody else before we start talking about these brackets in District 3? All right. So we're going to start 1A and go up. And there'll be less to talk about with the lower classification because there's less teams and teams that we know probably less about. No more Steel High in 1A. We have Malone Catholic and York Catholic. Anybody know anything about it? We don't have to really talk much about these.
York Catholic won the inaugural single A title in 1982 on a Friday night, the day after Thanksgiving. That's all I can give you.
That's good. That's more than we. Okay.
Yeah. The only thing I know is that they played last week, so they'll potentially play again.
Yeah,
That's
well, they have to play again. It's only
Yeah.
2 of them.
That's it.
The Lone Catholics 8-2 on the season. York Catholic 4-6. Move up to 2A. There's 4 teams. Steel High is going to play Upper Dolphin. That's the 1 and the 4. And then the 2 and the 3 is Lancaster Catholic, Camp Hill. Things kind of worked out the way, at least selfishly, the way I wanted them to, because I want to see Camp Hill and Steel High. It'll be a rematch from last year's championship game where Camp Hill, we called it upset Steel High. I'm sure Steel High hasn't forgotten about that. So just to get to that point, though, Steel High is going to have to beat Upper Dolphin, and Camp Hill have to beat the 2 seed Lancaster Catholic. You guys have anything on that?
I know Lancaster Catholic has a pretty good running back. I do know that. So
Steel High play, baby. Steel High.
And Lancaster Catholic did beat Camp Hill in the opener this year.
Yes. 20-18, was it? Do I have that right?
No, it was a 1-score game, 42-41. High score.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So let's move on to 3A, where Trinity earned the number 2 seed, fellas, by virtue of that Week 10 win. And they are waiting for the winner of Schuylkill Valley, Littlestown. And the 1 seed is Bermudian Springs. They're 9-1 overall in the season, and they're waiting on Biglerville and Berks Catholic. Berks Catholic kind of, I don't know. I don't want to use the term disappeared, but they were firmly one of the top programs in the state of Pennsylvania up until just a handful of years ago. Heck, they were giving you fits just a handful of years ago, Coach Mack,
Yeah, they had some tremendous players.
Yeah, you guys had some, I guess maybe 2 straight home and homes. Was it 4 games in a row you played them?
Yeah, except 2020 with the pandemic.
Okay, yeah, so it would have been,
I think Berks Catholic, I heard that one of their neighborhoods got closed up for some outlet mall, and all those families had to move down the West Lawn. I think a lot of them are going to Wilson now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the younger brothers. That was a joke, guys. I'm not cracking a smile.
Yeah, I was about to say because it hit Catholic.
Seriously.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I'd say that, and Wilson's not hurting for athletes, so maybe some of them have migrated. So
what I can say about Berks Catholic is that we got a couple of fans in our group on Facebook, and they keep saying not to count them out yet. So we'll see. I mean, they think they can make
count
a run.
them out. We've seen 5 seeds that come in with 6-4 records. We don't know. Maybe they're healthier than they have been all year. So,
when
all
were
right.
they at 3A school? I thought they were a higher classification than that.
They were like 4A and 3A.
Okay.
Yeah, they were a 4A. Because I remember they used to play McDevitt when McDevitt was 4A. So let's move on to 4A. And the local team that we have, East Pennsboro has a 7 seed. Coach John Denniston, our friend Coach Denniston, and they're going to play Susquehannock, the 10 seed, opening round or play-in game. Let's call it opening round. I hate to use play-in because they're going to be playing some football and not just it's the tournament starting. And then Susquehanna Township plays Twin Valley in round 2. They get a bye. Susquehanna Township. Twin Valley was one of those teams that was undefeated for the longest time, and then they lost.
They were number 1
really
in the state. According to the Patriot News, they were the number 1 team in the state about 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Until they ran into Wyomissing, right, Terry? I see Terry nodding. He knows all about it. We've been following that for half a season. And they got beat by 2 touchdowns to Wyomissing, and then Lampeter Strasburg just I don't know what to call that.
They just destroyed them. I mean,
they destroyed them. Yeah. So I'm sure Coach Heaton's got some film on them. Whatever those 2 teams did. If you can kind of try to duplicate that, but we really wish Susquehanna Township and East Pennsboro, Coach Heaton and Denniston well. And I think Lampeter Strasburg. Let's talk about who they're obviously, besides the number 1 seed, they've just kind of barnstormed through the season, haven't they?
Yeah. I think, coming into this bracket in particular, they have to be the favorite right now. I mean, they've been pretty much dominant since the opener, and they closed strong with a good win over Wyoming. So I think another thing that plays in their favor that they had two quality opponents in back-to-back weeks, which was Twin Valley and Wyoming. So I think they're carrying that momentum, and they can feel it. It's gonna be a tough out for the rest of the teams in 4A.
Terry, that's an awesome point. I mean, it really is. It almost felt like postseason football 2 weeks ago,
Right.
And they did. They beat two really good teams, and they're probably primed. I think they've been kept from winning a District 3 title a couple times, probably just by McDevitt's presence in 4A. So they're probably kind of licking their chops.
Well, they actually beat McDevitt a couple years ago in the playoffs.
In an earlier round, though, right? I don't think it was the championship, was it?
No, it wasn't, but they upset them. It was an upset.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think like maybe 2 years ago, they lost. It was the weather was crazy that game, but McDevitt only beat them 6-0. So, they've been very close. But like you said, I'm sure they're they really, really like their chances this year.
Yeah, I haven't seen them this year, but I know over the recent years
they won the district championship in 2020, and they won it back-to-back 2019, 2020. They're up to Van Peter Strasburg 2007.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. So what about Susquehanna Township? What do they have to do? They're going to have to run into, if they win and Lampeter Strasburg beats the winner of Elko and Octorara, Susquehanna Township's going to run into Lampeter Strasburg. Is there something in particular that they would have to do to win that game, guys?
Well, one, I would say they have to hope that it's good weather. I would say that, because if it's bad weather, it's going to favor Lampeter Strasburg, because they're physical, and physicality travels in the playoffs no matter what. So hope for good weather, and then trust your scout and game plan and play the game.
That's correct. Yep. All right, so let's go to 5A. Moving right along here.
Coach Mack, thanks for waiting patiently to 6A here, because we're going to ask him a lot of questions on that 6A.
Coach Mack, you are now one of our panel of experts. You're not our guest interview anymore. We've transitioned away from
that. Yes.
Yeah, we've got through that. You're welcome to chime in whenever you'd like. All right, so I guess the team that we don't know a whole, at least I'll speak for myself. New Oxford comes in with the number 1 seed. Those New Oxfordites, they got a jag on because nobody gives them any respect.
Yeah, they're in our group.
They're in our group. And they want to know why we're not giving them respect.
Yeah.
And I tell them right out, because you got McDevitt and Mechanicsburg in the brackets. And, admittedly, I know very little about New Oxford. Anybody know anything besides
Come
the
on,
fact
Joe.
that
You got to tell them the real reason why they get no respect.
Right, exactly. They're 10-0.
They ended up the year 10-0, okay? And they beat Bermudian Springs to start the year 28-13, beat Cocalico 21-0, Southwestern 48-20, Dover 46-14, York Suburban 41-6, Susquehannock 38-21, Kenterdale 43-6, West York 41-14, Warwick 30-7, Eastern York and my buddy Bud Kyle 31-3. They've never won a District 3 championship, and their head coach is Jason Warner. There you go.
All right, man. That's our stat guy.
Now you mentioned the
you guys realize. Do you guys realize how fortunate you are to have this District 3 website and this program here? It's incredible.
Coach Chapman?
I was just going to say, we announced the Cocalico game against Elizabethtown early in the year. The Cocalico won, but you could tell Cocalico had some talent, but they weren't quite as talented as they've been in the past. But I was impressed to see when I heard that New Oxford win over Cocalico earlier in the year. They did a nice job. So they obviously have some moxie and a decent football team. Just are they at the level of Mechanicsburg or McDevitt? Well, that remains to be seen.
They will be able to avoid McDevitt or Mechanicsburg the whole way to the championship.
There you go.
So they have that's a good seeding for them. They're the number 1 seed, and Mechanicsburg's 2 and Mcdevitt's 6. There's probably never been a better number 6 seed.
Oh, and
Ever.
It's kind of crazy.
We all know when we see it in March Madness a lot. You look at the brackets and people are like, wow, that East region seems to be better. But the one thing you hear coaches say, a lot of times, like New Oxford in this situation, you don't have to play Mechanicsburg and McDevitt.
Right.
You just got to play. If you get that far, you got to play most likely either just one of those two. And that happened in '85 with Villanova in the March Madness. They didn't have to. They made the Final Four. They didn't have to play St. John's and Georgetown. They only had to play one of them,
Right.
which ended up being the Hoyas, and they pulled the shocking upset.
Yeah, it looks more daunting when you see 2 teams on the
Yes.
other side, but
Yes.
there's not going to be 2 teams.
No.
Okay.
It is hard to believe that New Oxford actually has made 10 trips to the District 3 tournament. I will tell you that. I know that.
Okay.
Boom.
All
So
right.
wait, so Joe, why don't they get the respect that they want?
I think that I can only speak for myself. Again, I've seen McDevitt and Mechanicsburg both multiple times, and I'm just super impressed with them. And I don't think that New Oxford just has a whole lot of history of success in the District 3 tournament. That's kind of where I'm coming from.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, certainly.
Yeah, so New Oxford is one of those teams. They're just kind of, it's crazy to say this about an undefeated team, but they're still like relatively unknown. We're unsure of how they'll fare up against like the better teams that we know, like the McDevitts, the Mechanicsburgs. But I will say this, another team that's playing this Friday that I think is one of the favorites to get to the championship game, but they actually play Friday, is Exeter Township. As they're an 8 seed. So potentially New Oxford will get them the following week. So that game, that's going to be a huge game for them. If they can get over that hump, then okay, maybe they do got a little something. But in general, speaking, the York Adams League, when it comes to this time of the year, they haven't fared very well. So I think that's where the problem lays. We're unsure of these teams outside of Central York.
That's another reason, Ben.
They're from York County. York
The
County.
YA League usually
has an asterisk on it. Except for Central
Exeter
York.
Township an 8 seed, and they're 9-1.
There you go.
Okay, so let's move on to 6A here. Probably there's 3 teams in my estimation that it's going to be one of those 3. But let's talk about Cumberland Valley by virtue of their own win against Cedar Cliff. And I don't know if Central Dolphins win against Chambersburg helped Cumberland Valley. I think they got in just by beating Cedar Cliff. But they're back in again, and they play Governor Mifflin. Probably a very winnable game for Coach Josh Oswalt and his crew. How do we feel about Cumberland Valley at this point?
I think they're the favorite in that game, in my opinion. I think they should be able to handle Governor Mifflin. I haven't seen Governor Mifflin, but going off the scores and just not really hearing too much about them, I think Cumberland Valley is a pretty competitive, good football team that should get one win in the district tournament. I really do. At least one.
Cumberland Valley has had 3 quarterbacks this year that have been battling, and
2 freshmen, I think. I think it's 2 freshmen.
well, it's definitely a freshman right now that played really well against Cedar Cliff. They were really pleased with his play. The athlete that was a good basketball player when they put in at quarterback, he ended up getting hurt a few weeks ago. And Coach Mack, he was the quarterback that played against Central Dauphin in that 10-7 ball game, and he's hurt allegedly. So this freshman that they put in, they were really pleased with him, as I said, and they're looking for some big things from him to run that multiple offense against Governor Mifflin. The game's a home game for Cumberland Valley in the first round.
At Chapman Field. How about Cedar Crest Hempfield? 7-10. I think they're playing for the right to probably lose the next week against Wilson. Wilson looked really good. Anybody else watch Wilson kind of wasn't quite a dismantling, but Coach Mack, did you hear anything about that game? You were playing your own game.
Yeah, I didn't actually.
Man, Coach Doms, he had them ready at Manheim Township. Manheim Township had a 19-game regular season game win streak broken. It was also the third time in a row that Wilson beat Manheim Township at Manheim Township, and Manheim Township didn't lose the number 1 seed. I don't know how significant that is. Maybe not at all. It's just you have to beat a different team to get in, different teams. But what do you guys think? Let me just ask a general question. Who do you guys like here? Harrisburg, Manheim Township, Wilson, or is it somebody else? Central York's in there.
Wilson did look good. Manheim Township, we know they're a solid program, but until someone knocks them off, it's hard to not pick Harrisburg. It is very, very difficult to not pick them. Come this time of the year, their coaches make adjustments. They do a good job with that, and their players get up for it. They just want to get to this point, and then they just elevate their gameplay another notch.
I agree.
I thought last year that Manheim Township, hands down, had the best regular season and were the odds-on favorite to win the title. And we announced that district title, and it was at Manheim, the higher seed. And the Blue Streaks played extremely well against the Cougars and had pretty good control of the football game by halftime. There was a big 33 quarterback for Manheim. There was a big 33 wide receiver for Manheim. Those two players were playing really well. And Calvin Everett just did not allow that Harrisburg team to lose focus, and they stayed in the game. One of the most interesting things I thought during the game, I brought it up on the telecast. Since Harrisburg High joined with John Harrison William Penn in the 71 football season, I don't know many teams that wanted to kick off to them and coaches that weren't concerned about a kick deep to Harrisburg with the skilled players the Cougars have had for years and years. And in that game, every time, including the opening kickoff, every time Manheim kicked to Harrisburg, they had Harrisburg either at the 20, from the 25 in, with great kickoff coverage, which was rare for Harrisburg return team. And then every time Manheim got the ball, they were returning the ball past the 40 on their kickoff returns, the opposite of what you would expect.
Yeah.
But Harrisburg hung around and found a way in that second half to get some touchdowns and stay in that game and force it into OT and then win the game in overtime. And it was a great credit to the Harrisburg football team for doing that.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And Manheim, we did the game against Central York to start the season off. And I believe it was a Thursday night game. And Manheim handled Central York, played really well against them, and has had a great year again. Not as good. I didn't think they were as good as last year's team, but their running back is exceptional. He's been there for several years, 3 years as a linebacker, running back, and he's a tough player. Mm-hmm. And I figured they were the odds-on favorite to win it again. But then what Wilson did, you can't count Wilson out, and obviously you can never count Harrisburg out.
What about how young this Harrisburg team is? I'm looking at the roster.
They're very young at the.
They only graduate 10 seniors.
Yep.
Is there any information on Brown potentially coming back, Dave?
He's healthy.
Yes, he's ready to go.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if he's going to play both ways with the coming off the injury, the broken leg, but he is obviously a force on offense, but defensively, that was a big loss for them as well on that front group, on the front defensive line. And one other thing I wanted to mention, don't count out the Dallastown Wildcats, because we did them last year against Central York. Even though they lost the game on the road, this coach had some moxie. They did not quit in that game, and a lot of their skill guys were underclassmen. I know they lost a heartbreaker to Central in the regular season, but you can never overlook a team like Dallastown who has athletes and are capable of shocking a team in this tournament.
Right. How about, fellas, let's get a little closer to home here. Central Dauphin East. I mentioned maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago that when things were kind of starting to look like they might play Central York, that I didn't think it was a good matchup for East. And that was even before they lost a couple more games. And I remember that some of you disagreed with me. Do you guys think that that Coach Dean and his guys can give Coach Janchuk and his guys a game there? Can they beat them?
I think if you ask me who do I think they match up better out of Mayhew Township, Harrisburg, Wilson, Central York, it's going to be Central York every time. I just think the physicality level of those three teams that I mentioned above Central York, I think is different compared to Central York. So from that standpoint, I kind of think that East could maybe hang around with Central York for a half or so, maybe, or at least get it to the fourth quarter and see what happens, kind of thing. But also, it's going to depend on like how healthy Central Dauphin East is too, because they're pretty beat up right now.
They're not too healthy.
They're pretty beat up. They had 2-3 tough games in the top against the top teams in the Commonwealth back to back. So they're kind of like limping into the playoffs right now. So it's gonna be a tough challenge for them. But at least they get a bye, to try to regroup and get somewhat healthy. So we'll see what happens.
We're down to their third string tailback.
Wow.
And just prior to that game, Central Dauphin, Coach Mack, you guys played East in a rivalry game, obviously, and that game was back and forth, and what came down to the final play, and East pulled out 21-20 or something. It was a 1-point game, but there's no doubt about it. In the games I saw East play, their skill kids have kept them in the football games, Coach Mack.
Let's bring Coach Mack in. I'm not trying to give anybody any locker room fodder, Coach, for next year, okay? I'm just going to ask you the question that anybody would ask you if they were – you played Central York week 1. I call it week 1, week 0. And then East much later in the season. How do you see a game like this based on what you saw out of each of those teams playing out?
Well, those two teams actually scrimmaged each other. That was their respective scrimmage back in August. And, talking about their injuries, the Mid-Penn Commonwealth schedule is a two-sided coin. On one side, it really helps prepare you for the playoffs because of that level of competition and physicality. The other side of the coin is you can get beat up. So all of these teams we're mentioning and making projections on, it would be nice to know where they stand in terms of injuries and who's banged up, because that can have a huge impact not only on production, but also self-perception and how you see yourself as a team going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I just think I know that Coach Janchuk, I had him on 2 of our shows preseason, and he had a lot of personnel changes this year. You know that, Coach Mack, meaning lost kids to graduation.
Some really good players, too.
Yeah,
just like Coach Mack did this past year.
Correct.
Yeah.
And he kind of told me or us that he felt his calling card for once was going to be defense, Like usually they got some really good skill position players down there, and they're not without that again.
And they have a veteran quarterback.
Yeah. They have a veteran quarterback, and he does a great job. So I don't know. I'd like to see it be a close game, just as kind of a fan. I want to see East get back on the horse, because they've given up 152 points in the last 3 games.
Yeah, I was going to say that, but watching the Harrisburg game, going back to what Coach Mack said about self-perception, the team just did not seem as confident as they did at one point in the season. And I think going into the playoffs, not feeling yourselves, it's hard to overcome that at this time of the year.
That's a great point. Yeah, just something in your gut. If you have that feeling, those knots or those nervous energy, whatever that is,
that doubt can
hard
really
to play like with that, right?
Yeah.
It really is.
It's so interesting. Coach Mack said that those 2 teams scrimmaged, and obviously we only have 1 scrimmage now instead of 2 that we've had for almost ever. Only 3 of the 6 of us on this telecast were alive during this. So Terry, Ben, and Coach Mack, just hold tight for a moment. This is an all-timer. Any old-timers that are listening, Kirby Lentz, I see on there, he may remember this, but Dave Burman, this goes into not your backyard officially, but the backyard that you assumed a decade and a half ago, the Harrisburg area. Joe, you've lived in this area your whole life, as have I. So what 2 teams scrimmaged each other and then met late in the season? This is way prior to playoffs ever happening in our area, that it most likely had an impact on the game. And one team was way better than the other.
This is a hard question, man.
What
We
year-
never have easy questions.
What year is this?
Okay, I'm going to give you, I didn't give the year, but I'll give you the year. It was the 1969 football season. Joe, you were born in what, 66?
Yes.
Okay, I was born in 64. What year were you born, Dave?
March 18th, 1958.
Okay, so you were not around this area, the Harrisburg area, but you were. It's a
11 years old.
yeah. Mac, if I've ever told Glenn McNamee a story, which I've told him hundreds, he has never forgotten one iota of any story I've told him. So he may get this because I'm sure I mentioned it to him before.
Can you give me
I think I have.
a search? And I can probably find the article. They met later in the playoffs. You said.
Was Steel High one of
Harris
the
and
teams,
Steel High.
Coach? Was Steel High one of the
Okay,
teams?
John Harris and Steel High are not the two teams, but this has something. They have something huge to do with it because
I would've
they
guessed
played
so.
the week before. Nobody.
It wasn't Harrisburg. It was
Harrisburg was not in existence at the time.
They have a split.
That's Dave. You sort of gave the answer in a
William
roundabout
Penn?
way. if that's
William
what
Penn. That's William Penn, the other school.
Ben
Give me
Dupree
the name
got
of
it.
the
Ben had said William
George
Penn.
Chomp. It probably was George Chomp or Denny Green, one of the two.
Okay, Denny Green, it was already at Iowa. George Chomp had already moved on to Ohio State, actually a year previously. So here's what happened. My dad was on the John Harris staff, and you did Mickey Minnick and Jim Deibler, a phenomenal telecast about a month ago. Mickey was the head coach. Jim Deibler and my dad were assistants. And back to 68, John Harris had a 39-game winning streak, snapped at Steel High in an 18-7 Steel High win. Probably one of Steel High's top 3 wins in the history of the program, guaranteed.
Certainly.
And the next year, both teams are undefeated with 2 games left, and they're playing at Severance Field at Harrisburg. An incredible crowd, as you can imagine. And both ranked number 1 and 2 in the state. John Harris beats Steel High 49-0. And nobody expected more than a touchdown or 2 game. And I'm fortunate enough to have the game ball. My dad had the game ball signed by the John Harris players, a Spalding J5V. I have it in my classroom and filing cabinet at Central Dauphin right now. Anyway, there was 1 game left, the Thanksgiving Day game at 1 o'clock. William Penn, who had an average at best football team. Both teams scrimmaged the second week because the teams they were supposed to scrimmage were on strike or something and could not play. So they said, we might as well scrimmage each other even though we play late in the year. John Harris obliterated William Penn in the scrimmage, although William Penn had some decent talent. So they meet Thanksgiving Day and ended up being a 6-6 tie.
yes.
And the quarterback for William Penn was a sophomore and Willie Ross. And ironically, in that 6-6 tie, by the way, John Harris scored late at the highway end of Hershey Stadium, and Dougie Williams missed the extra point wide, and it ended up being a 6-6 tie. But the biggest victory for William Penn in years, even though it wasn't a victory, but to them it was. So I'm in my golf league at Dauphin Highlands on Thursday, and the starter said, go to hole 10. It's a 9-hole league. Go to hole 10. There are 2 guys that are new to your league and are waiting. So we get up there, my buddy Joe Pick and I, and we introduce ourselves, and this guy says, my name is Willie Ross. This was about 6 years ago. I said, Willie Ross. I said, Willie, were you by chance on that William Penn team that tied John? He said, was I on the team? Great guy. He went, was I on the team? I was a sophomore starting quarterback. And for 9 holes, we talked more football than paid attention to our golf shots. I said, Willie, I need you to know here. I said, I was really young then. I said, I was only a kindergartner at the time. Right. And I was at the game and I remember the tie, but I said, Willie, did you think, what were you thinking when you guys got on the bus at William Penn Thanksgiving morning to drive to Hershey Stadium?
After losing by so much in that
scrimmage, yes. And after John Harris just beat the number 2 team in the state 49-0 the week before, he looked at me and said, I thought we were going to win the game. I said, no, seriously, what were you thinking? He said, we thought we were going to win the game. And anyway, I'm announcing a Harrisburg game 2 years ago. I go up to the press box and I see Mike Elby, who was on the John Harris team, later Harrisburg's head coach. I said, Mike, I got a quick story for you. And I told him. He looked at me and said, no. Willie Ross did not think he was going to win that game. There was no way. He didn't think they were going to win that game. Yeah, but it was it. So Willie Ross. And a year later, I go to the golf league. I hear 4. I thought somebody was hitting an errant shot in the parking lot from hole 10 tee box. And it's Willie Ross. He goes, come to my car. I got something for you. And he had an article. It was laminated when he was a junior at William Penn, and his coach, they had nothing but praise for him. And he ended up being on the Harrisburg High first team. It was a senior on the Harrisburg team that Mickey Minnick coached when they joined. And he ended up being moved to running back, which he was not happy about. They put Dookie Hurst, the John Harris quarterback. Mickey did. And Mickey stayed his 1 year as Harrisburg coach. But he had a heck of a 3 years as a starting football player, his senior being Harrisburg High, and he was a starting running back. And to finish this, Dave, the first game that Harrisburg High ever had, Dave Burman, where was that game?
I got everything on it. I got the program on it at legendary Mitchell Field. They had Penn Highlands High School, which was a merger of the 4 schools in Mifflin County, 70, 71, 72, 73. Yeah, and then it was fall of 72, right, for
Saturday afternoon at Penn Highlands. I was in 2nd grade, and my mom took me to the game. Yep. So I went to see the first ever Harrisburg game.
Yep.
Hey, Terry and Ben, they're leaving us in the dust.
Mitchell Field finally had its last, after 90 years, the final game at Mitchell Field was played last Friday. Mifflin County beat Redland on a Hail Mary miracle pass. And so that was it. So 472, I got, Mickey Minnick. That was his only year he coached at Harrisburg High.
That's exactly right. And when I was coaching with Coach Mack, we went to play Mifflin County, and we got to that stadium. I said, Coach Mack, I have been here before. He goes, when? I said, 2nd grade. Harrisburg High.
I do remember
1971.
Do you remember who the head coach of Mifflin County was, or for Penn Highlands was?
Penn Highlands, I do not know.
Frank Rocco.
You're kidding me.
Swear to yes.
I just saw Frank Rocco's had some health issues just recently. I saw him post a Facebook post today saying that he's getting better and feeling better and thanking everybody. And Frank Rocco was the head coach at Fox Chapel, and he was the head coach of the West in the Big 33 in 78. And my dad and George Curry were coaching the East as assistants that year. And his son, Frank Rocco Jr., went to Penn State, but he was the starting quarterback of the West in that game. And Frank Rocco Sr., who I have great respect for, great coach, great man. He started Ben Dupree, you're going to love this, as a quarterback. And Coach Mack as a quarterback too. Frank Rocco on that game, West versus East, the West came in a little cocky, and they were expected to win the game at Hershey Stadium. They practiced all week at Shippensburg, both teams. Anyway, Frank Rocco played 3.5 quarters of that game at quarterback. Guess who only played a quarter from East Brady High School in Pittsburgh?
Yep.
He played linebacker most of the game.
Or was it Jim Kelly?
Jim Kelly.
Yep.
Yes, and my dad's quarterback, Pat Bowen, was the starting quarterback for the East from Cumberland Valley. And Terry Rakowski for the East had a great game at quarterback from North Schuylkill. Did a great job. And the East ended up beating the West 28-6. They only gave up a kickoff return for a touchdown. They dominated. They weren't expected to dominate, but they did. Also on that team for the East was Mike Munchak, was an offensive lineman.
From Allentown?
Not sure where he was from.
Pennsylvania guy, obviously.
Yeah, obviously a head NFL coach. And that East team was loaded with talent and did a heck of a job coming together. And the defensive MVP from Steel High, defensive end, had numerous quarterback sacks and was on their basketball team that lost the state title of Fox Chapel, Jeff Ogden, Steel High roller.
One of the best athletes ever come out of Steel High.
Yes.
All right, fellas, you guys want to move on to some state championship stuff? We're not going to talk quite as much about this because we have weeks here leading up to it, but let's just throw some names out. There's a lot of status quo teams. There's some that Coach Mack, did you raise your hand?
I'm going to have to part ways here, fellas. It's been an
Okay.
absolute pleasure.
Yep.
I can't believe I got a chance to spend the night with you guys.
We love having you.
This was
He raised his
outstanding.
hand like a student.
Coach Mack, before you go, I hate to get off the beaten path here, but
I wasn't
before
Coach
you go,
Chapp's.
Coach,
I wasn't Coach Chapp's classroom today, and I had to raise my hand there too.
what was going on? Tell Ben Dupree and Terry Clark, who I both had in class at Susquehanna, what was going on
Yep.
today in sports and entertainment marketing?
Well, we had a pretty complex discussion on product placement, price, and promotion. Very
Yes,
key
the four
elements.
Ps.
For those
Actually,
at
it was
home,
none of those
we
things.
had
It was
class.
Yes.
none of those things. It was a documentary on the University of Miami.
You.
You.
About the you today.
30.
Oh, yeah. It's all about
Yeah.
the you, but we got some really good questions.
And I raised my hand. I said, "Is this about product, place, price, or promotion? Where does this movie fit in?"
It fit
And the
in
answer
with
is it doesn't
market
fit in at all.
segmentation, geographics, because, and he heard this question. I had the Thunderbeard in the back, the wrestler. That he's a heck of a student. We have a lot of CD wrestlers today. They are good academically the last couple of years, and they're really into it. Thunderbeard said they roped off what they call the state of Miami from Daytona Beach across to Tampa and down. Howard Schnellenberger said this is the state of Miami. And in his 5th year, they won the national title by upsetting Nebraska. They said if we get a recruit in South Florida, he's ours.
He would leave his pipe behind.
And he'd leave his pipe behind, yes, at Melvin Bratton's house and other people.
Yeah.
But they did that in his 5th year. Amazingly, he got Miami on the map, and they ended up winning the national title in that upset. And I told the kids to segue because I didn't know Coach Mack was coming in the room. And I said, hey, Coach Mack, Coach Schnellenberger had a 5-year plan, and he accomplished it. Coach Mack had a 6-year plan, and that 6th year was in 2011 when he was able to get a Central Dolphin team to win the title. And, it was saying something.
What a great way to end things, man.
Yeah, but no, wait, before he goes,
Okay.
Coach Mack, you have to go tell him why. He's got to prepare. He's a big eater. The season's over. He doesn't eat a lot during the season. Once that season over, he's got to get that weight back up. He's planning his breakfast for tomorrow morning. Coach Mack, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
I had the best breakfast I've had in my career at Central Dolphin, actually.
Tell him.
Compliments of Coach Chapman. He got me
I knew
some
he had
yogurt, fruit, and granola. It was fantastic.
Oh.
I got to tell you
Thank
guys
you,
why. I
Coach.
didn't bring that from home. Every year we have a junior achievement. It's a 2-day thing. Half the juniors went yesterday. Half the juniors went today. And all these business people we have come in, and they are in our gymnasium and stuff. They have it all set up for the juniors. They get fed breakfast and lunch in a conference room across from the office. Believe me, I know about that. And every year I got second period free. I work my way down there. When they leave for breakfast, I take the leftovers and chow down myself.
Right.
So I came to Coach Mack with a big thing of yogurt.
With his stolen breakfast.
Yeah. Nice fresh fruit, all kinds of fresh fruit. Had some granola on top. And I even gave him a little piece of banana bread. He was ready to go.
Nice.
He lit up. He was all ready to go.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you for that, Coach.
Central
Started my,
Dolphin
hey,
head coach,
what-
19
no better way to
years.
start my day, and this is no better way to end my day.
Coach Mack, we really appreciate it. That's Central Dolphin head coach Glenn McNamee.
Does
We're
a
going to
great
bring you
job.
back on again
Thanks, Coach.
sometime. Maybe a different format, different scenario. We want you to be a friend of the show. Is that okay?
You name the time. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, folks.
See you guys.
Thanks,
Take
Tell
care.
family we said hello.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay.
See ya.
All right. Okay, so guys, we still got statewide to do. I don't think we need to like I said, we're going to have a show this Sunday, and we're going to have a show the remainder of the Sundays until the end of the season. Okay, so let's kind of gloss over, some of the teams that we think are going to, let's say, be in play for a title. We don't have to go 1 to 10 because we know from 1 to 10 is not going to probably be around. Okay.
All right, where do you want to start? 6A?
I think Coach Chapman has.
I just got to. I hate to disrupt this, but we have the comments here. Can they see the comments at home? Can these guys see the comments?
Coach Dr. Eric Schrader.
Our head principal had a boating. He fell off. He was getting off his boat and he stepped on the dock awkwardly and broke bones in his feet. He's got to had surgery. He's recovering right now at home, and he's watching it. He said. So he has a lot of time on his hands right now until he gets back. Dr. Eric Schrader, our principal at Central Dolphin, who's a former football player at Norristown and Lebanon Valley College, said, big lineman, he said, when the boss is away, teachers will play. Coach Schrader, Mr. Schrader, I've gotten breakfast from that since I've been there in 2011 on that junior achievement. I go down there every year and play. Yeah, it has nothing to do with you being gone. Don't worry.
Dr. Schrader, I don't know about this.
And if you think I went in there, and if he were at school, he weren't in there, you think he wasn't going to be in there?
He would have been
down. He'd been there chowing down.
Right.
You better believe it.
Ask him if he played. Ask him if he played. If he knows John Ruttman. So he was a great football player at Norristown back in the late 80s. So there.
Well, I'm sure he'll know him. Eric was there in the mid 90s. Mid 90s was his time at Norristown.
And we also want to thank Kirby Lenz. He watches us every week. Dan Rickabaugh from Rickabaugh Electric is on. He's one of our great sponsors.
My man Gary Jones, Smoke Jones,
Smoke Jones,
Shippensburg, my man.
He was my best friend at Shippensburg.
Was he?
Oh yeah,
man, he's a great guy.
We still talk all the time.
So Smoke's on?
Eric just said I know
God.
Johnny very well.
Okay,
you see that?
There we go. Everything's coming together here, fellas.
Sorry for the interruption, guys.
That's okay. We interrupt each other all the time. Okay, let's start with 6A. We ended with 6A with districts. What's very interesting about 6A, at least in my estimation, is the best 3 teams this year are all out of District 12. Is anybody going to contest that?
No, LaSalle College, St. Joe's Prep are off this weekend. Then they play each other in 2 weeks. And got to get it's Cat Day. Is it Cat Day or something? So
I just locked mine in the basement earlier.
I have a bowl of tuna here, and my cat's going crazy. Anyway, so here, got to my food. LaSalle College and St. Joe's Prep play in 2 weeks, do or die game. The winner of that game will play Imhotep for Imhotep this week hosts George Washington in the Philadelphia Public League semifinal game, 6A. So you know how they spread it out. So I'm looking for, I don't know. It's going to be LaSalle College or St. Joe's Prep Imhotep, and winner of that game will take on the District 1 6A champ, who could be anybody.
Probably CB South. Would they be the favorite, or is it hard to tell?
Well, yeah, they're 10-0 and they're top ranked, but I still think Coatesville, even losing 3 in a row, still has a chance to make noise. One of the best young teams in the area, but they just can't. They're losing games by a touchdown. So, and then
Dave, who would you put your money on? An all-star team comprised of Imhotep Charter, St. Joe's Prep, and LaSalle College High School. Those 3 teams, take an all-star team for them, or the Maryland Big 33 team.
I know that.
It's not even close.
It's not close.
I thought you would have said
Up
Maryland.
against Maryland, they have some great coaches, and I love all those guys.
It's not close.
I'll tell you what, I think the team would be on that PA Tribe team right there.
right, yeah, that. So then we have Pittsburgh Central Catholic and Wilson Westlawn now is number 5 guys. They're up 5, and this is the Pittsburgh Tribune Review, and then we got that's it. So let's see, 5A, Chester still number 1. Tough District 1 tournament coming up, 5A. Upper St. Clair, number 2. They're a great program out there. New Oxford, 3rd in 5A. This is Pittsburgh Post Tribune Review. 4th, and Pine Richland. So I don't know. I really can't predict right now, guys. It's just, I know Roman Catholic is going to be there, guaranteed, unless I would bet a lot of money on it. In the district, it will be the PIAA State 5A semis will be Roman Catholic against the District 1 champ, which could be Chester, could be Ruston, could be Strathaven, Garnet Valley, Marple Newtown, Penn. A lot of teams could Springfield Delco is unbelievable. So there you go, guys.
I like
our
Chester.
representative Terry. We've been talking about 5A all year. It's a log jam at the top. It's all at the top. I mean, you can go 1 down through McDevitt's 8th. I don't know why that is, but anyway, McDevitt or whoever comes out of District 3, they get to avoid presumably Roman Catholic till the state championship game.
Right. So they're going to go west, right? So they're going to probably run into maybe Upper St. Clair or one of those.
Pine Richland.
Richland.
Or Upper St. Clair.
That's no gift.
Well,
It's not. That's going to be tough.
Yes, yeah. Goes on. We'll recap it. Right. Every Wednesday we're doing this 7:00, right? Okay.
No, just this Wednesday because it's the postseason free. We're going back to Sunday.
Okay.
Dave, you're part of a special show here tonight, buddy.
Hey, who won at the quad A level, that used to be the top. At the top level, quad A, the first ever state championship, 1988 quad A. Who won that title?
Central Catholic.
Warwick.
Pittsburgh Central Catholic
Pittsburgh
beat what team at Penn State, Beaver Stadium?
Oh
The
my!
only game that was played at Beaver Stadium, but they were
be a
four
D1
different
team.
locations.
So
A
19.
Mid-10 team.
Oh, okay.
They
Cumberland
beat
Valley.
4. I'm blank. I can't think who it is.
They had a big
State
time.
College.
They had a big time
Cedar
pro.
Cliff.
Cedar Cliff.
Cliff.
Kyle Brady. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I bring that up because it was interesting because Pittsburgh Central Catholic, this is a crazy stat, lost to Upper St. Clair in the WPIL final. But Upper St. Clair and Jim Render, a fabulous coach, said, we're not interested in going to the state tournament. We're here for the WPIL. We're not going to play in that. So Pittsburgh Central Catholic was elevated to take their place and ended up winning the first. Upper St. Clair won it the next year and has won it since then and has been there several times. They won in '89 over Kerry Collins and Wilson, 12-7. But Upper St. Clair most likely would have potentially had 2 straight.
I never knew that.
Yeah, the first 2 state titles.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
That's very interesting.
Okay, what about 4A? Lampeter Strasburg's number 1. St. Joe's, let's see. We got Bonner, number 2. I'm still looking for Bonner Aliquippa State Final. We'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, Montour handled Aliquippa 2 weeks ago, and then they lost to West Allegheny in overtime this past week. So, Terry, which Montour team is, are we going to get here? In all likelihood, we're not sure. They're probably going to end up playing Aliquippa again.
Yeah, and TJ Thomas Jefferson out in D7 4A too.
Always
They're
tough.
undefeated. They're really good. It's the District 7 4A bracket is really strong this year. Really
West
strong.
Allegheny has to be pretty good too to have beaten Montour last week.
Right.
And H4, Thomas Jefferson and Bill Chirpak.
Oh, yeah. That team is usually really physical and has had some great teams over the years. The best thing I like, I'm a uniform freak, and they got the Steeler colors, but I love that one year they were state champs, and they came into Hershey, and all their team had yellow tape spats on their cleats, and they were sharp as could be.
You have to win when you come in like that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, you do. You're right.
You have to win.
You're right.
All right.
Hey,
So
all
fellas, I'm
representatives
gonna
are
have to
best
take my
chance.
pieces. I'm out.
Oh, sorry, Ben.
No, I was saying I'm about to hang up the phone here. My phone's about to die. I'm on 2%.
Okay, so you're leaving us?
Yeah, I'm heading on out.
We
enjoy
will
the game.
reconvene
All
on
right, Ben.
Sunday for the Week 11 recap show.
Week 11 recap. I'm looking forward to
Sunday
it.
at 7. 7. I'll remind you, we're moving it
All right,
back
7,
an hour.
7.
Yeah.
And I got to be on this again because I still am waiting to talk about Ben Dupree's ability on 2-point conversions under Coach E. And they would line up, and I'll save that. That's a little teaser for some other time.
We'll bring him back.
Because this guy was unbelievable.
He's got a blanket in his face.
A 2-point conversions. All right, appreciate it. Appreciate
All right,
it,
Ben.
y'all.
Thanks,
All right.
man.
All right,
Good
man.
job. Okay, so 4A is going to be very interesting, very fun to watch play out. Again, our representative, I think, will probably end up being Lampeter Strasburg. I don't see why I'm missing being able to turn things around, but who knows? Why I'm missing's new to 4A too. They've been playing out of 3A for years.
What's Wild Missing's helmet look like?
The Michigan, the
The
old
winged helmet.
Yeah,
the
the
winged helmet. Yes.
Yep.
They're sharp.
I like that. I
They
like
look
that
sharp
look.
on them. Yes,
Yeah.
it does.
I
They
like
play
that
hard.
look.
They play physical football.
Yes, they do.
Physical brand, and they're big up front.
Yes. How about 3A, guys? So the Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, Bell Vernon. They were moved out of 3A to 4A, and they're 4-5 this year. So the reason I say that is because somebody else has a chance to win 3A this year. Just throw one team out there that's 10-0, Amani Christian. They moved up from 2A, and the last 5 years they were 0-10, 2-5, 2-6, 4-6, and 8-4. So Amani's kind of been like inching along, and they're putting themselves in a position where they probably think they have a chance. This is the classification, Danville, Northwestern, Lehigh, Scranton Prep. These are hardly teams that aren't on the map statewide year in and year out, but they haven't won state championships, at least in quite a while, any of those teams. Am I right? Danville, Northwestern Lehigh. Northwestern Lehigh just lost last year.
Northwestern Lehigh made it to I want to say they made it deep into the playoffs in 97. I don't know.
Yeah,
Sharon went to the 95 state championship, lost a big loss to Berwick. Berwick was phenomenal that year. I don't see any other.
Normally you can, and not just because they're the bot, but normally some of these teams are going to be.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, but you don't see many of them, right?
Terry, I got to bring you in for this, man. You know some of this.
So I'll mention one team that is not ranked right now. They kind of leaped into the playoffs. They have a tough road ahead of them, but they were predicted as one of the favorites to contend to potentially win a state title, and that's Central Valley. They're 5-5 right now. They're kind of leaping in, but their coaching staff and the players, they feel like their schedule. They played a tougher schedule. They played a lot of the bigger schools out in the Pittsburgh area, so that's why their record is what it is. But I mean, they have a really big time running back, and they have a nice O line, and they can make a run. It's a tough path because you mentioned Imani Christian, who looks really, really good in D7 right now. So it should be interesting if they can make a run.
And that's what an analyst does, Coach.
Great job, Terry.
Yeah,
and Central Valley's coach
really
has been around. He's been a Big 33 head coach. He does a great job, and you can never count them out. Who was their star player that played at Pitt and in the NFL now?
Oh, they beat McDevitt that year in the state championship game.
Whitehead ended up losing the state title.
He was
game
on one leg.
They lost the state title game when Whitehead played, but he had a heck of a game. That guy was something.
Oh, they did lose.
Central Valley, yeah, they lost. They made a huge comeback and ended up losing the game. And I'm trying to think who they were playing, but they were playing a phenomenal football
Isn't that
team.
the light blue?
Yeah, light blue, like North Carolina. They're a jointure of several schools,
Yeah,
Central Valley.
Okay, all right. So let's go to 2A. There's this is interesting here. I just said ding dong, the witch is dead. Southern Columbia, I can't imagine them. And I know that they've just stunned us in the past. I don't think that they're going to be able to come out of even their own district. They're going to have to play Troy, the number one ranked team in the state, in round 2 if they both win their first game. So is Southern Columbia this year pretty much out of it, guys?
Man. I can't never count them out because just around this time they flip the switch every single time. We seen it last year, and they kind of leaped into the district playoffs, and they just flip the switch. It's time to start winning like we normally do, and they did. This year though, it's going to be very, very, very tough. Troy looks really, really, really good. And they've been motivated to get over the hump and finally beat these guys. And they were like, this is their year. So Troy is going to be really, really pumped up for that potential second round game versus Southern Columbia. But once again, you can't count them guys out. You just can't.
No, you're right.
Never.
Coach Jim Roth, he's
Hey, where are you going to 1A next?
No, go. We're going to go.
Before you do that, I was going to give. Okay.
Yeah.
So back to this missing winged helmet.
Oh yeah, we're here to talk about uniforms.
Yeah, where does winged helmet? Did it start at Michigan? Is that where it started?
Yale.
I would think so, right?
Yale.
Maybe
he went to the Ivy League.
Yeah,
he's got the wrong team, but he's got the right league. That's something else.
Yeah, I thought it was an Ivy League school.
Yes.
Oh man.
Oh, you were close.
Okay, guys, I got us narrowed down here.
Where'd Dave go? Dave, don't get on your phone. He left us. He's going to get on his phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to have to find him.
No cheat, Dave.
Dave's got to buy the next meal when we all get together. Come on back here, Dave.
It's definitely not Harvard.
Well, Princeton is the
Bingo.
Princeton.
Bingo.
Yes.
Fritz Chrysler from Princeton. Here, Dave. Is that Dave calling you now?
Dave calling me now.
He's trying to get back on. But Fritz Chrysler from Princeton came and took the Michigan job, I want to say in the 40s, and at Michigan, he brought the winged helmet from Princeton. Princeton still has the black and orange winged helmet. And he did it for two reasons. One was to spruce up the helmet because it was just a plain leather helmet prior to that. And the other one was so the receivers were noticeable by the quarterback. The quarterback could see the receivers better. And he was the one who brought that helmet. And Terry, what's the other team that has a very similar helmet in college, similar colors as well? They're not Division I. They're at the next level down, what we used to call 1AA, that has the winged helmet as well.
Ooh.
Do you know it?
Is it Delaware?
Oh, they're the name of a state, one of the 50 states in our country. They're a 1AA, old school 1AA school.
Is it Delaware?
What's that?
Delaware?
Yep, Delaware Blue Hens.
Oh, very good.
Good job. Yeah. Yes, they're a royal blue and yellow, but yeah, not the Mason blue of Michigan. But yes, Delaware Blue
Well
Hens.
done, Terry. My crew don't mess around.
They don't mess around. I know. Well, hey, I had Terry Clark in class. I know he knows his stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Always dialed in.
I don't know. Do you ever get on the Pennsylvania High School Football Forum? Are you on that group?
I don't know if you're in. You might be in it, but
he moderates. It's his,
wonderful.
It's his group. He does a great job.
That's great,
I say it
That's
all
great
the time.
to hear. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move to we had to talk uniforms, so thank you for that.
Dave, we thought you left to research the questions we couldn't see on the screen.
There he is.
I just popped out for some reason.
He's on his post. He knows his stuff.
You're very active tonight, Dave. You're kind of moving and okay, Dave,
Yeah.
we're going to go to 1A.
I want it. Okay. Did you say Troy? You were talking about Troy.
did you want to talk about Troy?
I announced one of their games this year. They beat a 6A or large school, Dover, Delaware, down here at a showcase at Salesianum. So I love Troy. 30 kids on the roster, but they're going to be tough to
Tell
beat.
us real quickly about Troy. We don't know how'd they look.
They look good. They're tough. They're tough mofos. They're just very disciplined. They hardly ever commit penalties, and they are ready to take it to the next level.
What kind of offense?
What's that?
What kind of offense?
They like to run the ball, but they can pass occasionally. But they like to pound. It's
Okay.
old school semi-cold cracker football. They're way up there. And then
All right, so you segue us into 1A, Dave.
all right, we got Fort Cherry. This is the Pittsburgh Post Tribune Review rankings. Fort Cherry, number 1. That's Marty Schottenheimer's alma mater. Remember him? And we got Bishop Guilfoyle that lost last week, right? Yeah. Lost to Penn Cambria.
27, yeah.
Yeah, Penn Cambria. And they're a very, very solid team. They can make some noise. They're second. Westinghouse is 8-1. Clareton 10-0. Good to see Clareton back. Port Allegheny's always tough, but they don't play the strongest of schedules. They're 10-0. I don't know. I would love to see Fort Cherry win a state championship. They were runner-ups last year.
I'm and I know I'm a member of the media. I'm not supposed to root, and I'm especially not supposed to publicly. I'd really like to see Westinghouse be able to get one. They had a heartbreaking loss last year when they were in 2A to Southern Columbia. Southern Columbia took it. I'm just going to guess, but I think it was 99 yards, Terry. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the last couple of minutes of the game, I think there were 2 4th downs that Southern Columbia converted. And the other thing is Westinghouse has been playing all season long without their best player, Keyshawn Robinson. They lost him, I believe, in the preseason, if I'm not mistaken. And they are still 8-1. So let's just say I'm supporting Westinghouse to have some success in the state championship.
Dave, you brought up Marty Schottenheimer. When he was retired, he came and spoke to the Pennsylvania team at Hershey. We were still at Hershey, at a Hershey High School cafeteria. And we're actually at Hershey Middle School, which used to be the high school, in that cafeteria. And I'll tell you what, just a heck of a coach and molder of men. I heard so many great things about him. He was with a guy who was the general manager. I'm drawing a blank on the name. The general manager of the Giants that has Hershey roots.
Oh,
if I'm talking about,
or I can't remember.
Yep, that guy that's well known. His name, but anyway, he and Marty were buddies, and he brought Marty along. And Marty, it was just neat to see him. It's great seeing these old timers that have had great success at even the NFL
Right.
level, come and talk to the big 33 players and just impart their wisdom a little bit. And he was one of
the greatest football coaches of all time to not win a
Super
Super
Bowl.
Bowl.
How about
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Won a
Now,
state
they're all-
championship in basketball, though. State championship in basketball.
Who's that?
Martin Schottenheimer.
Fort Cherry, yeah.
Oh, he won one? He was a player?
Oh, yeah. Hell of a player.
Oh, how about
Boy,
that?
that's something there.
Hey, who are the 4 NFL teams that have never been to a Super Bowl? The Cleveland Browns are one, but who are the other 3?
You guys, any Terry?
Jacksonville?
Jacksonville Jaguars.
That's a good guess. Yep. He's cheating.
Gary, no, Dave, no cheating.
It's not called cheating if he just does
The
it right in
Panthers,
front of
Carolina
us.
Panthers.
No, they were.
No,
No, they've been there twice.
They lost in the final play of the
Lost both
game,
of
the greatest show on turf.
No, that was the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. That's
So
right.
far, you're missing 2 teams. The one of the 2 that you're missing, one is the most recent NFL team that's been in the NFL for the least amount of time.
I thought that was Jacksonville.
Jacksonville and Carolina came in together
Yeah,
in the
yeah, I knew
mid-'90s.
that,
This team
yeah.
came in after them. And the other team you're missing is the only NFL franchise that has been a franchise for every Super Bowl and has not made it. And they almost made it last year.
The Texans, Houston Texans.
Houston Texans are the most recent team to come in. The
Very
team
good.
the team that you're missing is the one that has been the only of the 4 that has been an NFL franchise for every single year since the 66 season. That was the first year of the Super Bowl.
Oh, wow.
And they came this close to making it last year. At halftime, you thought they were going to the Super Bowl.
The Bills, Buffalo Bills.
No, they lost.
No,
They're in the
they
NFC.
Tim Kelly.
They had the 49ers. They were cracking the 49ers at halftime. And they don't like to kick field goals. They like to go for it on 4th down. That's
The
what you should.
Cardinals.
No.
They lost
Oh,
to
they
the
lost
Steelers.
to the Steelers, yeah.
Who?
Oh, they weren't around.
Detroit Lions.
Oh,
That's
man.
right. How did I not guess them?
unbelievable.
How did I not guess them? Because they're good now. So like, you know what I mean? But yeah.
Yep. You know where Fort Cherry basketball? Fort Cherry. They won it 1961 at Class AA, which was B back then. They beat St. Clair, which is a coal region school up in the coal region. And here's a picture. There's Marty Schottenheimer's number 54. Can you see that?
How about that?
Wow.
My dad was a senior that year at John Harris in the 61 graduating class. How about that?
Nice.
There you go.
So the one team that and then we've derailed, and you know what? I'm glad we have. This has been so much fun, guys. How about Clairton? That's the one team we talked about them last week. They've given up 3 touchdowns all year, 2 on offense and 1. I don't know how the other team scored, but you know, they're outscoring teams like 65-0 week in and week out. We're not sure about their strength of schedule, but 1A is very interesting, isn't it, guys?
Yep. And one thing about Clairton, I will say it's nice to see them back on the state caliber level. You know, they've been down a couple of seasons, but they were kind of similar. They remind me of Still High, as you know, every so often they get a really, really good group and they're back in state contentions. That's kind of what Clairton is.
And a very similar community, right, Terry?
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see them back in contention to possibly win a state title.
I think I like Guilfoyle. I don't know about to win it all, but I think to at least get there.
Yeah, Guilfoyle's been down a couple seasons. They were kind of always in that state contention as well, but it looks like they're back at it.
And they get to avoid the District 7 rep until the state championship game.
Yeah,
Guilfoyle would, because they're District 6. I would imagine they're in Altoona.
right.
So
Yeah, so
Oh,
I like them to get to the championship game, like you said, and then
I do.
the West winner. I'm not sure. It could be 3 or 4 teams right now. It's going to be close.
So what we'll do, guys, is Sunday again, 7:00 rather than 6 because of JoJo's birthday party. We will recap. Not a whole lot changes because a lot of the better teams they have buys, and until you get maybe to at least to 2/3 of the way through the brackets. But we'll do our Week 11 recap show. We'll talk about whatever transpired in this this coming Friday and Saturday, I guess it would be, and just kind of shoot the stuff again, like we have been. This is by far our longest show, and we had 2 great guests. Coach Chapman, thank you so much.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, you'll get a blanket invitation. I'll always send you a link, is what I do with these guys. You can come over here. You can do it from home. You can do it from Florida if you want. Dave, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Terry, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Held you hostage for a while tonight, guys.
No, that's all good.
Great seeing you guys.
Yeah,
always a pleasure, Coach. Always a pleasure, man.
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll talk. We'll be texting. Hold on. Anthony Andriola, 4. Give them a Final Four trivia question.
Okay, give me the year. Terry, pick the year. 19. Pick the year, Terry. 19. Anything.
All right, 1992.
All right, in 1992, this team was winning their 2nd consecutive title, and on the same night, that's 2 hours away, mind you, that Steel High beat Punxsutawney.
Oh, that was
the high school state.
Hit the shot.
Christian Leitner made the shot at the Spectrum in Philadelphia to make it to the Final Four, and they beat Indiana in the semis, and then they got in the championship game, they won their second title in a row. Over what team did they beat? A very, very historic team who has a 30 for 30 about them.
UNLV.
They beat UNLV in the semis the year before.
Yeah.
Michigan.
Yeah, Terry got it. The Michigan Wolverines and the Fab Five as all freshmen. Excellent.
All right, Terry. Great job, man. Anthony, thank you for that. That was a great way to end tonight.
Yeah, that was, man. I always love the trivia, man.
Thank you.
Guys, we will text Friday night like we always do.
All right. Sounds
All
great.
right.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate
We
it.
really appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
Great job.
Yep, talk soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. It's fun.
The people at home must be like, what's it?
No, dude.
I didn't mean to overtake a little bit
No,
earlier
no.
with Mac, bringing some things about Mac up, but
We're there for fun.
okay.
This is.
Well, I do the same thing with you. When I come on, you're on the sidelines, and we come over and start, and I love it. You'll go, and we start talking a little. You know what brought it up?
You always startle me. I'm what the hell is this stuff?
But you never ever go,
No.
hey, I'm busy. Whatever.
No,
we just
no.
fired, and I never would ever want to interfere
No.
with anything that you're doing.
We are Lingelstown Gazette Sports. We are not ESPN. We don't try to be ESPN. We don't try to be Penn Live.
Yeah. Hold on. We got Christy here. Christy, you're on speaker.
You're still on the air.
No.
Yes, you are. I see you on my television.